Okay, so welcome everyone to our Study Abroad podcast series. So today we have Vaishno, who was born in India, then moved to Oman, Muscat, and then studied in Hong Kong, and we'll be knowing about his journey from Muscat to Hong Kong. So welcome Vaishno to our podcast.
Hi, Vishal. Nice to talk to you. Yeah.
So Vaishno, when was the very first time you thought that probably I should go abroad for studies? So I am done with Muscat now.
No, I mean, naturally, at the end of grade 12, you're deciding where you want to go for your undergraduate studies. So, traveling back to India was the top priority. But sometime early in my grade 12, I got to know about some of my seniors through some of my university teachers, sorry, my school teachers, especially my chemistry sir in grade 12. So I got to know about these stories and I thought it was quite interesting. So I wanted to explore a few options abroad. And then when I got researching into it, the possibilities of studying abroad, the global exposure, the multidisciplinary nature of many of the programs, many things attracted me to then pursue studying abroad as my primary objective. So I would say early in grade 12, I was looking into it. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. And once you decided this,
Yeah.
you shortlisted some colleges. Like how many colleges, universities did you shortlist to apply to?
Yeah, so I was looking into geographies that were accessible tuition fee wise, and that was a primary concern, how expensive it would be. So I knew that Hong Kong was relatively cheaper. Singapore was also quite affordable if you got in with the government-backed scholarship. And then I also applied to Canada. So I would say totally applied to five universities for undergraduate level. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And how did you pin down to one university out of these five?
So first, it's about acceptance. So I got into two of the universities. Singapore was quite hard to get because my score in CBSE grade 12 was 96.4. Uh, so if you were applying without a scholarship to Singapore, I know people who have gotten in with maybe relatively lower scores than that. But if you're applying with a scholarship, sometimes they ask for 97 plus 98 percentage in CBSE board exams. So it was a really high score, and I couldn't match that. So Singapore was out of the picture. Then in Hong Kong, I got into the University of Hong Kong, and in Canada, I got into the University of Toronto. So the top universities in both in Canada as well as in Hong Kong. So then it came down to how expensive it was going to be, the financial benefits, and University of Hong Kong was offering me a 50% scholarship to study in Hong Kong. So then the economics of studying abroad made a lot more sense. That's how I came down to choosing University of Hong Kong.
Sure, sure. So the scholarship is not just the financial thing, it's also, feel good factor for a lot of people. It
Yes,
becomes a CV point,
right.
right? Like, okay, I won
Definitely.
50%
Yeah,
tuition fee waiver and things like that. Gives a lot of confidence boost up for further future career also.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Sure, sure.
So I can still listen on my CV. It's not mentioned as a 50% scholarship when the university gives it to you. For me, the title was Philip K.H. Wong Foundation Scholarship. So I still listed on my CV, and yeah, happy to list it there. And like you mentioned, when you're getting a scholarship from a university, it's a very sure sign that the university wants you there. So definitely a confidence booster.
Yeah, yeah, and that's how they attract good students also, I guess. So it's a kind of an appreciation to the good student that, okay, please come to study in our university. We are ready to give you
Right.
like this 50% waiver as well.
Yes.
Sure, sure. So once you decided the University of Hong Kong, how was your visa process like? Was it very smooth? Any hiccups? Anything? Any experiences in that regard?
I would say was quite smooth. For me, the challenge was that I got my offer late June. So my university classes would start in September. So I had just 2 months remaining. This was because although I was writing the Indian CBSE board exam, so you get the result in May, Because I was applying from Oman, the university considered my application as an Omani application. In Oman, the students get their result in the first week of August. Then I had to appeal to them and get that sorted. So one recommendation I would have is keep communicating with the university's admissions board once you get your final result and make sure they're processing your result. So as far as the visa was concerned, the process was very smooth. The universities in Hong Kong typically want you to send a certain bunch of documents to them via courier. So you have to send the hard copies to them, the signed hard copies. And once it gets here, they apply, and then they say it takes 6 to 8 weeks. So I was a bit concerned, but it was processed in like 4 weeks. So I had at least 2 to 3 weeks remaining to fly out to Hong Kong when I got my visa.
Sure, sure. And how did you book your accommodation?
So the accommodation was guaranteed for first year students. It still is in almost, I would say, all universities in Hong Kong. For international students, the first year accommodation is guaranteed in a university facility. So I didn't have to worry about it at all. I just came here. I came here with my dad, who helped me with the you know admission process, the initial couple of days. So I stayed with him in a hotel, and from the second day onwards, I moved into the university residence. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And once you settled in your accommodation, you had to do cooking, cleaning, laundry by yourself, or some help was there?
I would say cooking and laundry, yes. Cleaning, my personal room had to be cleaned by myself, but then the common areas like the common kitchen as well as the I would say the common dining area, etc. was there was a domestic. I mean, there was a help, a lady, a maid who would come and clean the floor every day. And I would say, in terms of being self-sufficient, I had foreseen it, and I had like prepared to cook for myself. Learn some recipes, and it was also a bit of a relaxing activity after a day of studying. So overall, I would say wasn't too challenging, but I had to do most of it myself. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So now you're an expert in these things.
Yeah, I mean, as good as you can get by just doing it. I mean, I wouldn't say I make great food or I do a great job cleaning, but I'm self-sufficient. That's what I would say.
You are happy with yourself at least.
Definitely, yeah. I'm happy with the progress I've made, particularly because in the beginning you're struggling with many of the fundamental and the basic things, but yeah, you learn very quickly, and then you're happy to take care of yourself along with your studies.
Sure, sure. Your accommodation and your college is nearby, or it's a bit far?
So back when I was in university, I've graduated last year, so it's been 1 year since I was studying. But back when I was in university, my residence was just a 10-minute bus ride away from the university, and they had shuttle buses every half an hour during class hours in the morning and evening. So it wasn't too bad. And even if I didn't get the shuttle bus, then I could take a normal public bus and get there in 10 minutes. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So how was your first day at college?
Uh, the first day of my orientation or first day studying in
Both.
university.
What were the,
Because
shock surprises that you saw in your initial few weeks?
yeah, I don't remember a lot of the first day of studies because the way the scheduling works is you have some days when you have just one lecture and other days when you have more. I think the first lecture was a mathematics class for fundamental engineering. I did engineering in university. So the professor was nice. It didn't feel too strange. What I remember is it was not very personal because lecture halls are quite big. So you have more than 100 students in the lecture room, depending on the class. So it was a good class, nothing very specific. But my very first day in university, which was an orientation day, I do remember quite well because I was with my dad and it was wonderful sights. You're walking through the metro towards the university elevators that take you up to the university. And there is the history of the universities on the wall. So you feel a certain gravity about what you're going to step into. And then when you get into the university, multiple buildings and a lot of confusion. The University of Hong Kong, particularly, is a bit difficult to navigate because it's not just on the same level like many universities, the Western countries, or maybe even in India, where things are spread out. In Hong Kong, space is a bit limited, so you have more of a three-dimensional campus. So you have a lot of floors, levels. Gets a bit confusing. So I remember being very confused on my first day of university. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So, did you had to write any English test for this admission process?
Yeah, I wrote a TOEFL IBT test, and this was I wrote it in Muscat, and I also, but it turns out it wasn't necessary because I got a 95% in CBSE board exams English, so that was good enough as a qualifying mark. Some universities allow you to take the CBSE board exam results, but because the result was going to be released in May, and I was applying in October the previous year. So I decided better write a qualifying test, the TOEFL PT.
Sure, sure, sure. What about the part-time jobs and internships?
So I would say in Hong Kong, part-time jobs is a bit of a, uh, there are some positive aspects as well as some negative aspects. The positive aspect is that you get a lot of opportunities within the university. Many times there are research opportunities, there are language consulting opportunities. I took advantage of both. So I was a research assistant for a few months in my second year, as well as almost throughout my entirety of the final year. I was also a language peer consultant, helping with English language related challenges for students in the university. So I was able to earn quite a bit of income, maybe all the living costs I could cover during my final year. Although it is a bit challenging with just a part-time role. I would say the negative side of part-time jobs when it comes to Hong Kong is you're not really allowed to do part-time jobs outside the university. And that is a pretty strict regulation of the immigrations office. And even in university, you're only allowed to work up to 20 hours during the during the semesters. And then during the break, you are allowed to work more, but you need to get a permission letter, which is easy to receive. Now, that brings me to internships. So internships really depend on what your field of study is. So you have to apply for it yourself, take the self, I mean, you have to have self-initiative, of course, and you can apply as soon as you get into university. I did a couple of internships myself, and it really depends on how proactive you are about applying. But most people go for internships, and almost all internships are paid in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. And once you're doing all these internships, the part-time job, etc., the job application, did you also face a lot of rejection during that time?
Yes, I would say internships, not really, because I knew exactly which company I wanted to apply to, and I think I chose a very good opportunity. It was like very well suited to my background, and my idea was I just wanted to try and do an internship. I did a one whole year of internship, actually. I took a gap year to do an internship, which is another possibility if you get into one of those internships. So internships, I didn't face any rejection. I applied to one, I got into one. But when it came to applying for my job, I guess the market situation was quite a bit more challenging in 2022 and early 2023. But and rejection is is a very common element of any job application process. So I did face quite a number of rejections, but yeah, I managed to get a few offers, and yeah, happy with the job I have now.
So these job applications, did you use like platforms like LinkedIn job portal? What was the most common things that you used?
I would say two primary sources. One was university career emails. So the university does a great job of accumulating all the jobs or job openings of that particular week, and then they send you weekly emails. So I used to apply to every relevant job on that list immediately. And the second was, like you mentioned, on LinkedIn, I would go through some job openings and find the most appropriate ones and apply to them. But it depends on your industry, I would say, because the engineering industry in Hong Kong mostly publicizes directly through universities. So I would get to know about these opportunities maybe first through university emails, maybe before the LinkedIn ads or LinkedIn job listings.
Sure, sure. And what are your future goals from now?
Yeah, so right now I'm working in Hong Kong's largest utility firm. So I've taken a step into the energy sector, and there's a lot of growth and opportunities possible within the energy sector. So right now I'm maybe exploring some opportunities within the industry. I'm also looking into some master's options, master's degree options, maybe part-time along with working, or maybe full-time if I get some good opportunities, but that's still up in the air. Right now, I'm focused on the career trajectory.
Sure, sure. Coming to the very last question, Vaishno, what advice would you give to younger yourself, the people who are aspirants, who are thinking about abroad studies?
Right. I would say have good clarity about why you're doing it, where you're going to do it, and how you're going to get there. Because a lot of the times it comes from a aspirational sentiment for students. I want to get there. I want to do that, but research is sometimes lacking, and I see that when I talk to some of the young students. What you got to do is really make up your mind what you want to study, and then you have to find the universities that are best suited for you. So make a long list, maybe 10, 15, 20 universities, and then shortlist it. Have a manageable number of universities. So if you have like 15 or 20 universities or even higher, I know people have applied to many, many universities, and what happens is you lose focus and it becomes challenging. But when you have a short list, when you have a smaller list of universities, it's a lot more manageable when you write the letters, when you write when you get the recommendation letters, etc. Right? So you have a short list, you apply to those universities, and then it's a waiting game. But the most important thing I would say is for students to get their families involved in this, because the support of my parents, well-wishers like teachers in school, etc., was incredibly important, and you need to have a support system with you when you're applying to universities anywhere. Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult task managing it by yourself.
Sure, sure. Any recommendation
Yeah.
on usage of LinkedIn?
Um, okay, actually, when I was applying in back in 2018, I was completely oblivious about LinkedIn or using social media for connecting with admissions officers. But now I can see the value of it. It's mostly useful for gaining some information, and you can directly find the admissions officers for your particular program dealing with your particular region when you just go through LinkedIn and find the right people. Uh, what you've got to do is maybe just email them and see what sort of information you can get, and make sure your questions are valid ones, not just attempts at making connections. Sometimes the admissions officers can see through it, and many times admissions officers are overwhelmed by messages. So if you don't receive a reply, if you don't find them being very proactive with you, don't see it as a sign of rejection. They are very busy people, especially when it comes to the admission season. So try to use it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be about your traditional application method directly to the university, and yeah, making a good application for yourself.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Vaishno, for your time and insights. We hope our audience have learned something today. So have a good day.
All right. Thank you.